Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you to episode 5 of our podcast. And today is a special one. I'm Robert Stewart, head of School of Fusion Academy Buckhead, with my co-host.
Hi, I'm Bailey Moats. I'm the Director of Outreach for both our Fusion Academy, Alpharetta, and Buckhead campuses.
So today we're going to have a deep conversation where we break down the facts, the myths, and the rules of engagement with some of our top private school admission leaders here on the call. So Bailey, I'll let you kind of take it over from here and have everybody introduce themselves.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and let James start us off. So James, you want to go ahead and then you can redirect to somebody else?
That sounds great, Bailey. Robert and Bailey, thank you for having me. James Foreman, Director of Admissions and Enrollment Management here at the phenomenal Galloway School. I'd like to pass it on to Miss Beth-Sarah Wright.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Robert and Bailey, thank you for having us this evening. I am Dr. Beth-Sarah Wright. I'm Director of Enrollment Management at Holy Innocents Episcopal School. And Nija.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Nija Meyer. It's pronounced like I need you to do something. I am the Vice President for Enrollment here at Woodward Academy, and excited to be here today. Who was left that I need to pass it on to? Here we go. Pierre.
Hello, thank you, Robert and Bailey. My name is Foxx. I serve as our Associate Director of Admissions at Pace Academy, and it is a pleasure to be here this evening with you all. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. And we also have Wendy Sheats from the Westminster School who will be joining us in just a little bit. So thank you all again for being here. We really prioritize our partnerships with you all, and we're so grateful that we can do this for our families and to support our community. Let's just hit the ground running. So the first topic will be about families finding the right school. What type of student or family would you say would be a good fit for your school?
Sure, I'll go ahead and get started. So at Woodward Academy, one of the things that we're looking for, I can tell you what we're not looking for. So if you are a family who is looking for your child to be in a bubble, we may not be the right school. So at Woodward, we are 60% students of color. We've got more than 6 religious faiths that are represented. We draw students from 100 zip codes in 23 metro Atlanta counties. We have diversity of learning style. So it's our belief that a student is going to grow the most and be ready for the world if they learn from others who may not look like them or may not think like them or may not have the same backgrounds and experiences. So our mission statement is very grounded in intentionally bringing together a diverse community so that it will prepare students for the world. So that's something that we're looking for. And then the second thing that we're probably looking for, we offer so many different opportunities that we want students who are eager to try them all, whether it's in athletics, where we have 18 varsity sports, or if it's in the visual arts, where we have jewelry making and fiber optics and all kinds of fun stuff. So we want students who are willing to kind of experiment and figure out what their passions are.
At the Galloway School, what we talk about is breaking the mold, because there is no mold. I remember being asked for a portrait of a graduate, and I affectionately laughed because we have 78 students off in 50 different colleges in 24 different states. So at the Galloway School, we want students to be true to who they are. We want your unique, unrepeatable talents. A successful student at Galloway embraces individuality, has a passion for learning, is eager to be exposed to a variety of different passion purpose courses, and looks for opportunities to engage in the community, whether that's here at Galloway or whether that's in the greater Atlanta community. This is a place where you can be your true, unique, unrepeatable self. And we welcome you at the Galloway School.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Wright. Yeah.
Very sure. I would just talk a little bit about Holy Innocents Episcopal School. I like to say when I speak to students, please don't choose Holy Innocents if you feel that when you go to a school, you're going to be only one type of student, that you will choose to be just an artist or just an athlete or just a scholar. There are so many ways that you can express yourself and discover the passions within you. And this is really, I will say, on behalf of all of our schools, one of the great one of the great dimensions and features of independent schools in Atlanta is that we offer so many things for students to come and discover their passions, discover new interests, to discover parts of themselves that they didn't even know exists. But it's also spaces for them to come and deepen their passions that they already have. So to deepen any love that you might have, any expertise you might have, and to go far. That's one thing I can say on behalf of all of our schools. And I know that at Holy Innocents, we encourage students to really go far, to challenge them, to go as far as you would like to go, to deepen whatever it is that you may be interested in. But we're going to ask you to look left and look right and try something new. So risk takers, people who are willing to try something, people who are willing to step outside of the box, to be okay being uncomfortable, to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's something that we try to encourage in our students. One unique feature of Holy Innocents is that we are in a round square international school. And that means that we're partnered with so many, about 200 schools throughout the world. And it offers an opportunity to bring the world into here on campus at 805 Mount Vernon Highway. And it allows for our students also to step out and to discover the world. There's so much out there, and the world is smaller than we think. And so this is an opportunity for you to explore.
And I'll add on there, just when I think about the topic and the question about finding the right school. Atlanta is an amazing place, right? When you think about this independent school space in this landscape, there's an option that fits the right mold for every single family. So, one thing I encourage families to do is do research, right? Do research, go visit the schools. You want to know and learn about the culture at these schools, right? There's so many different opportunities, as all our wonderful, participants tonight have talked a lot about. We're, looking for, you have to find, again, the right fit that feels right for you. I tell people, when you walk into a space, it's a vibe check, right? You feel it in your gut, you know what feels right. And, it's going to not only fit your child, but also your family. So Atlanta is a great place for that. I'm from Kentucky. I didn't have many options growing up. From the independent school space, but to be here in Atlanta, families again can find the perfect spot for them. And just specifically to Pace Academy, one thing I often talk about, we want kids that are multidimensional, right? Oftentimes I ask students, like, what are you involved in? And I hear arts, right? And I hear one thing in the athletic realm, and I say, what else, right? So that is what, I think all of our schools are looking for. We want kids that are going to dive into many different things. They're going to try different things. They're not afraid to fail, right? They're failing up. They're putting themselves in a position that allows them to learn, right? I always say the greatest learning lesson is failure, because you truly do, get those experiences and learn, and you can grow from those things. So that's kind of my piece there. So.
Thank you all for sharing more about your school. And I think, to add on to what Dr. said, like, this is really just a testament that we're all here to help you find the right fit for your child, and how we're all willing to work together to make sure that you get in the right place. And if it's not currently, that you will get there. And so I think that's some peace of mind for our families. And I hope that if anything, you get that message out of it today. But I think Robert's going to head on and lead us into the next question.
Yeah, so to add to the good fit, what does your admissions process look like, and what makes your admissions process actually stand out versus everyone else's?
I'm happy. First, brother, I'll let you take.
One of the things I think about on this, just thinking about what stands out in our admissions process, right? I think all of our admissions processes are pretty standard, pretty the same, but there are some things I think it's all individualized based on our schools and kind of what fits right for us. So one of the things that I say for us that sets us apart is we put our kids front and center, right? When families come to tour our school, they are meeting with students, right? I often say in our process, even in my presentation that I do, It's one thing to hear from me, but it's another thing to hear directly from the people that are actually walking the hallways every day, sitting in the classrooms every day. So they get my students, my student ambassadors, pretty much more than half of the time that they're on our campus. Another thing, you know, when I think about this piece is our process. We have a lot of events. Again, just going back to culture and finding the right fit. We understand that people work, right? So we offer a variety of events for our families to get to learn more about us. So that's night events, weekend events, morning, Zoom, in person. You can get to know us in many different ways. So just, you know, multiple ways to connect with us is, you know, part of our process, and we're you know, happy about the things that we're doing with that piece. But those are just kind of ways I would say, you know, things when I think about the standout from other schools. So.
Thank you.
So, Dear, if I can build on that a little bit. So when you asked about the process part, so all of us here are members of something called HIES, which is the Atlanta Area Association of Independent Schools. So as such, there are going to be some common evaluation forms that we share, some generalities regarding our process. And we do that so that families don't have any undue pressure from a school to choose them for reasons outside of it being the best school for their students. So the processes are probably going to be fairly similar. As Dear said, so yes, it is really important for students to be front and center. So when we have families who do come for a tour, we always do it one-to-one. No two students are alike. And if no two students are alike, then we don't want to have a tour group where there are people with, you know, different passions and aptitudes. And, you know, we want everyone to, we want our counselor to take time to get what that student likes to do. And then the best way to do that, as you pointed out, is walk the hallway with the students. Let the student tell you about a day in the life, because, you know, and we encourage our students or our applying students to be on the tour so that they can connect student to student with that.
I would say that another feature that many of us probably do is to allow for students to come and spend a few hours of the day with shadowing another student or in a classroom. So you're not only just walking the halls, but you are actually in the classroom and engaging with the instruction that's happening that day, and going to the cafeteria and going on the playground or wherever it may be. So it's a much more immersive experience. And so we, for example, at Holy Innocents, we do offer the student visits from rising second grade all the way up, so that you can come and spend the day or half of a day with us. And so that's an important part. As you can see, there's a common theme here. And that common theme is that the students have the greatest voice when it comes to telling the story of these schools. And so that's very powerful. It's obviously very palpable here right now. So, and when you pull out to build on what Nija was saying about us being a part of AAAIS, we offer these periods. The admission season begins in October, and then you have really from October to February, January, February, all this time to come and get to know the school. So there, with all these options that we offer for our families, take advantage of them so that you can discover what aligns with your family's values and aligns with your culture and your understanding of what you want for your educational home.
Well, Dr. Wright, spot on and perfect segue, because this huge smile that I have on my face is because we are nearing the end of our event season right now with our last evening event next Wednesday. You know, one of the things that I will add is that, you know, I'm a sociologist by trade, right? So one of the things that I will encourage any prospective family who's going around and visiting, I'm going to steal Wendy Sheats' comment, any of our competitor leagues around here, is that you want to look at how the kiddos show up, right? Not just take in all the information that we're throwing at you as you're drinking from the fire hose of information we provide, but see how these kiddos are showing up in the classroom. You know, I even for one of our small group tours for our upper learners, I actually have it scheduled during a passing period for that very reason. So they actually get to see kiddos during that 15-minute brain break that we have here at Galloway move and interact with one another, because I think that's a very key, important piece to a student's, everyday life. With regards and respects to our tours specifically, and that's what I would encourage. A lot of folks, they go to the open house, but forget about the fact that we do host tours, and you've heard that from everyone thus far. And our small group tours have an added benefit for middle school and high school students, that you get your own student guided tour that's led by our student life coordinator. You get to hear and see what you want to hear and what you want to see, and get those questions answered. Another thing that's great about our tours is that whether it's an early learning, middle learning, or upper learning tour, we culminate with a student panel that's facilitated by our principal and assistant principal, with authentic responses from our kiddos. We don't coach them up as to what to say. We just ask them to not say anything negative. So you never know what you're going to get, but it's always authentic.
Thank you. I know, Wendy, you just hopped on. We're just really talking about the admissions process, and how does your school stand out? If you want to share with your admissions process.
Thanks, Robert. And thank you, everybody, for having me today. My name is Wendy Sheats, and I work at Westminster. I'm the Senior Director of Admissions, and I'm really happy to be here. But I would say I would echo everything that I've heard just now, because of AAAIS and because of our collegiality that this group really has with one another. There's an incredible amount of collaboration and respect for what our parents are going through, with all of the various requirements that each school will have to try and assess if it's a mutually good fit. And so those common forms are really important to us, and just trying to make sure that it's a process that's manageable for families to get through. But, I think to everybody else's point, families are going to have similar opportunities to engage with the school in ways that really suits them. But I think it's really what we are all looking for ultimately that helps us to understand, who's going to thrive and enjoy the experience that we're all offering.
Thank you, Wendy. And thank you guys for your responses. I love hearing the collaboration. And that's one thing that you all do, is collaborate with each other. And one common theme, like Dr. Wright said, is that you're putting the students first. So I appreciate your responses. I'm going to give it up to Daly now. Thank you, guys.
I also think we talked a lot, about the students really getting to know each of your schools. And so I think we also should backtrack a little bit, because like you all mentioned, there are mandatory things for parents to do in the admissions process, even though there is a commonality there. So I'd love to discuss how your school handles standardized entrance testing, and is this optional for new students? James, do you want to go ahead and start us off? Does that work with you? Perfect.
Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. So we talk about AAAIS. One of the great things about our partnership is also the partnership that we have for our earliest learners, kindergarten through fifth grade, with the psychologists who support the JATP. The JATP is a cognitive assessment for our kiddos that kindergarten through fifth grade applicants will all schedule and go through that process, and we will receive that information as another quantitative measure, another slice of the pie, as I like to say, of a student's admissions file. So the JATP is our kindergarten through fifth grade kiddos, and then I'll start to get specific to us here at Galloway. At Galloway, we accept the MAP assessment. 2 years of a final family report can be given to us. We also accept the SSAT for our kiddos. And then moving to the high school, it's very similar. SSAT, the MAP is accepted. PSAT is accepted as well. And should you have a junior that has already taken the SAT or ACT, we will take that standardized test information as well. The one thing I'll say, and I'm sure my colleagues are going to say the same exact thing or something very similar. Students, families, this is one snapshot of your ability on one day outside of the MAP assessment that gives you 3 different chances to take it. please know that this does not exclude you from our admissions process, and it is truly just one piece to the puzzle. We get a lot more information that comes to us from evaluations, from recommendations, and all the other different steps in our process. So don't stress over the standardized test piece. Try your best. That's my biggest recommendation.
I can jump in also. I would agree with James 100%. I think we spend a worthy amount of time helping families understand how all of this information works together. And it is one big puzzle with many pieces. And what we're trying to do as schools is really look at trends and get a sense of what the teacher says about your child, what happened on the day you took this standardized test? What do you have on previous standardized tests? What are your grades? What are coaches, what are sponsors saying? And we're really trying to triangulate data in a way that gives us something really reliable to make predictions about how your child might do in some aspect of our community. So for example, with the SSAT, we're really trying to make predictions oftentimes about first semester, or for some schools, first year success in English and math. Well, we know there's so much more going on in the school other than English and math, right? So it can't be the thing that we are making admissions decisions on. And for some reason, even though we say that, people don't always believe us, but it's true. It's impossible to really make a decision based on, like James said, a snapshot on a day. And so what we're really looking for are trends and outliers. And so it's our job as admissions officers to really understand that information so that we can guide you through our process, but guide you in general. When you have these interactions with us, we're spending quite a bit of time learning about you, your child, your family. And so whatever the outcome, when you walk away from us, our hope is that you know a little bit more about your kiddo. And ultimately, our hope is that you join us in the fall. But ultimately, if you walk away, we just want to make sure that we did our due diligence to make sure that the decision that we made is going to be one that is best for your kid.
So well said, Wendy and James. And just a couple of things that are a little bit different at Woodward. So we are not part of the JTP. So for our younger kids from pre-K through third grade, they are taking a grade-specific assessment that's here at our school that we have an educational consultant. And for the kids, it feels like fun and games, so they don't even know that they're being assessed. And then we have the elementary SSAT for grades 4 through 5, and then the SSAT that was mentioned. And then anytime, as James pointed out, if you have a question about whether an existing standardized test score will suffice, you can always check with your counselor, if there's the ERB, CTP5, Iowa COGAT, there are exceptions that we can make to that. And then the second thing that I wanted to point out, and maybe all of our schools do this part, but in addition to it being a data point for admissions, we really rely on these assessments for class placement. So Woodward has different academic tracks. We have a college preparatory, my tongue is tangled. We have a college preparatory academic track, which is the basic level of rigor that will get you ready for college. But if a student wants to bump up that challenge level, we have an enhanced preparatory track, then we have an honors track. So a lot of times families say, well, how do you place students initially in one of the tracks? Well, that is where these standardized test scores really help us. If math is a student's strong suit, then maybe in their class placement, we might start them off with honors math. But let's say perhaps they need a little bit of reinforcement in writing. We might dial it back a bit and just give them the regular college preparatory level for English.
I'll just add on to that as well. So it's so wonderful to see the importance of, yes, there is the importance of having a standardized assessment across all students, but of course it's just, as James and we've all said so far, it's just one part of the puzzle. It's just one slice. That one snapshot cannot tell us everything about you. So I also just want to share that there is so much anxiety when it comes to taking those tests. And one word of a piece of advice is simply this: just to become familiar with the test in as much as you can, become familiar with the type of test it is, especially if you're working with the SSAT. There are lots of free tests that are online and lots of ways that you can learn more about it, how you can prepare for it, know what it is, so you're familiar with it. That's the best way to really prepare, because you already know what you know. And so I just want to offer that, to just try to decrease the anxiety that comes along with these assessments. Also, I'm pretty sure that all of our schools have additional assessments. As Nija referred to, they are on-campus evaluations that we give, that our schools give. So in addition to the SSATs, or to the JATP and other assessments, we have these internal assessments that we create our own, because we know our curriculum, we know our standards of expectation, and so we can create something that's more tailored to our schools. And so just know that that is part of your evaluation as well. We're looking always for that consistency in the full scope of your story, your beautiful stories. We're just looking for consistencies.
Thank you all so much for your feedback. I think, again, this is such a great topic because it's alleviating a lot of parents' worry, in a way to reframe, like Dr. Wright mentioned, these standardized testing formats. And so I think all of that to take into consideration. So thank you all very much.
All right. So as you guys are admissions officers, what's the most commonly asked questions that you guys get? I know you guys get a lot of questions, but what are the most common? I know you guys are laughing now, but what are the most common questions that you guys get? You guys can go on your Q&A page too if you want to. But
There's one question coming to mind for me that I often get is around financial assistance. And what that looks like for admissibility, right? And at Pace Academy, we are a school that we are need blind. So what that means is that we actually make admissions decisions, and then we send it off to our financial aid committee. So that's kind of how that process works. So we don't want families to think that their ability to pay has any effect on their admissions decision. So that's a question I get. I'm sure we all get the question around the financial aid around that space pretty often.
Another general question that might come up would be, how will my child transition to your school? How will they feel comfortable as they come to being a new student at your school? How will they, what is that onboarding process? What does that look like? Because we're always wondering, are they going to fit in? Are they going to feel like they belong? And I'm sure that at all of our schools, we have lots of ways to maintain and to create an environment for that onboarding, so that you get to meet current families, you get to meet students, you get involved in the school in the summer leading up to the fall, so that when you come on day one, you've met people. You've maybe met even your people, your friend group. You may have done that already. And so I want to also decrease the anxiety about that. What will my child be like? He's very shy or she's very shy. I'm not sure if they're going to fit in, all of that sort of stuff. We're in the business of making sure that you as a family feel comfortable coming into our schools. And we are very intentional about doing that. And we'll create lots of different ways to make sure that you know and are familiar with the school before you come on campus day one in the fall.
And part of that process of being comfortable, a question that we get quite often is parents who want to talk to our current parents here at the school. In the same way that putting our current students front and center in the tour process really helps for our visitors, it really helps parents to not hear from us, because in admissions, there's always a degree of skepticism that we're trying to sell them. it actually hurt my heart because both of my kids went to Woodward from pre-K onward, and I felt like I was very credible. But as soon as I started working in this field, everybody looks at me like, "Are you sure about that?" So we try to do everything that we can to allow just organic conversations, putting our applicant parents in touch with our current parents so that they can ask those real questions that they may not be feel comfortable asking, during the process.
I would have to agree so much about onboarding. Those were some of the things I was thinking. Also, Beth-Sarah, when you mentioned it. And we also use our current parents a ton in the application process, students also, but certainly the onboarding experience, because you need to find your tribe and you need to build affinity. And for some folks, that's going to be, in the football fields. For some folks, that's going to be in an affinity group. For some folks, that's just going to be, in so many different ways. And so it's really important for us to get folks connected and plugged in quickly. One of the other things that I feel like we get asked a ton at Westminster is what does it mean to be considered high achieving, in as low as, the elementary or early lower grades. And so one of the things that I always share about Westminster students is, they are loved and they have a love for learning, and they are just the most curious, ambitious minds. And when you think about your own child, and I often ask families, to think about your kid, and is this the type of child that has a lot of questions and a lot of questions for you and Alexa and everybody else? We want to introduce those really curious, ambitious minds to challenge and overcoming challenges. We want our kids to be so incredibly fearless when it comes to solving problems, and actually have the courage to believe that they can be a part of the solution. So we spend a ton of time helping people understand, what does that mean as their worlds are broadening and their senses of self and responsibility start to deepen? What does that look like for them as they grow up and as they matriculate throughout school, even at the youngest level? And at the end of the day, for us, we're trying to help our kids be leaders. And by the time they graduate, they're ready. They're ready to be solution finders. They have the courage to break, the status quo, and they feel like they can be agents of change. And so we're planting those seeds at a very, very young age. And where people want to know, what does that look like and how are you doing that? And that's probably one of the things we get asked the most.
I want to echo everything that was said, and I'm sitting here chuckling because, as I just referenced previously, we're coming to the end of our event season. So I do have some natural questions that are truly popcorning across offices. And one of those is, because our deadline is Friday for our applications, do I have to have everything in on Friday? No. You can submit your application without submitting the supplemental documents. There's a different date, especially, I speak specifically for us, but I believe it's for everybody. There's a different date for supplemental documents, but getting your application in triggers some things like you just heard. A shadow day for us here at Galloway, you have to be an applicant in order to register for a shadow day. It also creates an observation day. That's what you heard from Dr. Wright, where the assessment and some of the engagement happens on campus with our teachers and prospective students. And now, because we're nearing the end of the event season, I'm getting that question. So when do I hear from y'all again? Like, when do we get a notification of acceptance? And within AAAIS, we all have an agreed upon electronic date of March 30th. So you'll hear from all of us at that time. So those are some of the questions, hot button questions outside of what you have heard today, that I'm getting right now.
Thank you. I'll remember that because I get a lot of recommendations right now. So there is another deadline. Okay, got it.
So speaking of hearing from you on March 30th, okay, let's reevaluate here what we're talking about. So let's talk about getting waitlisted. And what does this look like at your school? Because I know that come March 30th, that will be something that's happening. So I'd love for the parents to kind of hear from your perspective what that looks like at your school, and kind of how to navigate those feelings and how to support your child as well.
So we wish we could take every student, because as we've all been talking about, each child has a unique gift and something wonderful that they could offer to the community. That being said, spaces are limited. So it puts us all in a position of having to make some very difficult decisions. So we have our admitted candidates. Then we have candidates whom we deny. It doesn't mean that they're not smart. It doesn't mean that they're not gifted. It's just that we do not believe that Woodward is the best option for them at this point in time. We always encourage families that you can apply again, because especially at the young ages, children hit milestones, from year to year. And then for waitlist, it's truly a yes. If we had more space, we would take you. And then we just tell families, we give them periodic updates every 2 weeks throughout the summer to let them know, has there been any movement? Has there been any movement? Unfortunately, this past summer and after COVID happened, I know we've all been hit with a lot of applications, and so our wait list didn't clear like we had hoped it would. And there were a lot of disappointed families, but we reached out to them right away and said, hey, next year's application season is opening October 1. So go ahead and, be one of the first to apply for that. A wait list is not a soft no, at least at Woodward. We like to treat it that. We were really, really wanting to admit your student, but space just doesn't permit it.
And along those lines, families want to know, is the wait list ranked? How that works. And so that may differ from school to school, but sometimes I can speak specifically for Holy Innocents, the wait list is not ranked. It is, it really, we look at many different factors when coming off of the wait list, but it's not like we're waiting for this person. And so, and I know that being in limbo like that can be very frustrating. It can also be so uncertain, and we understand that. And so, to Nija's point, we try very hard to be in constant communication with you. We want to be in communication. So know that you will hear, you're not going to be in a dead space. We're going to be communicating with you and letting you know when and how we can actually move to the wait list if we can. So I just want to share that as well.
And Beth, to that. Nope, Wendy, you got the floor.
Oh, thanks, James. I was just going to add to Beth-Sarah's point, we have decided internally to move from calling it a wait list to calling it a wait pool for that very reason. It's not a list that is ranked, and it is something that we need to give you regular communication about and make sure that families feel apprised and in the loop, and that everyone is aware of the landscape and what's happening as it relates to enrollment within our school. But we're now calling it a wait pool just so that families are even more clear that, one, if there was space, you would be here. It is not a soft no, like Nija said, and also it is not ranked. So those are really important. And lastly, because of those things, where we know there are more applications than there is space, we ask families up front to cast a wide net. And because we are part of the Atlanta Area Association of Independent Schools, our hope really is that on Saturday morning, on March 30th, you open Ravenna and you have 3 or 4 yeses. And if there is a wait list because there was more application than there was space, you can then start to, as a family, prioritize what you do have in front of you. And that is something that we all will respect and honor. And that is our expectation for you. So just know that, ultimately, if it's us, we hope you choose us. But at the end of the day, we want you to have the gift of options so that you can decide what's best, especially if one of your favorite schools gives you a wait list.
I echo everything that touched on all the points when I think about what that wait pool does look like at all of our schools. We have been in the same space as Nija had mentioned, as far as not being able to move to the wait list. But again, that's not one of those things where we say it's a no forever. If space does open, especially one of the things I wanted to bring up was non-expansion years, especially for us at PACE. Grades are pre-1st, 6th, and 9th are our main expansion grades. And that's where we typically have the most space. So we'll open up 60 spots in pre-first, 30 in the 6th grade, and 35 in the upper school. Students that are applying to non-expansion grades, we typically don't have room to move on those grades. But again, just making sure that you've done your research on all of these things. We list all of this information, all of us pretty much on our websites as well. But just knowing that if you apply for the grade 8, it may be a thing where we wait list and say, hey, 9th grade is an expansion grade. So just, again, going back to that constant communication with the family, letting them know we'd love to have you, but this is not a grade expansion grade or something like that. So.
Bailey, it wasn't asked, and I agree with all that was said, but it wasn't asked, and I want to chime in with the other side to this, the elephant in the room, which is a regret or a decline of enrollment. And the reason why I want to reference this is because one of the conversations that I love is when a family reaches out for feedback. And we can't give a ton of it because there's a lot of confidentiality that takes place, but about what they should be doing in this next year in order to, as Nija said, potentially reapply. So I welcome those dialogues. I'm not sure if everybody has the bandwidth on this call, but our offices welcome that dialogue because it's about finding a good home. It's about best fit. And just because we weren't able to accept you, we might have a school referral for you where we think there is a good fit, or we might be able to talk to you about what's needed in order to become, a better applicant moving forward. So please don't take your no's to be a complete shut of the door. We don't ever want to hear from you again. That is not the case. It could be an opportunity to gain more information about what's needed in order to present yourself and your family as the best applicant and parent partners moving forward. So just wanted to offer that up as well.
Wonderful. Really wonderful, James. It was ultimately, for all of us, I think, ultimately what we want is the best for each student and for them to thrive and for them to flourish. And not every school is the same, and not every student will flourish in all these schools. So we are so blessed really in Atlanta to have such a variety of options for schools, for families. So there's a lot out there. Please make sure that you take the time and get to know the schools and see which ones align best for your family.
Thank you all for your feedback on that question, and James also for mentioning the alternative side of things. I think that's really insightful, and I think there's a lot of things to be taken away from this conversation here. So I really appreciate all of your vulnerability and willingness to help and support our families as well. And I know Robert has something to end a note on. So he's super excited and passionate about this. So we'll hand it over to him.
So, this is a stressful time for families, as we all know, but sometimes we forget about the admissions office, how you guys are doing and treating yourself and managing the stress during the season as well. So we're going to do a fast 5, and we usually ask 5 questions that our guests can only answer in 1 sentence. So since we only have 5 people here, I'm going to ask a question overall, and if you guys can tell me an answer in 1 sentence. During all of your years in this admissions world, what's the best advice you've ever received in 1 sentence? The best advice you've ever received in your journey as an admissions officer.
Yeah, some of the best advice I received, and it's ironic because we all have target enrollment, right? But some of the best advice I have is don't focus on that number, focus on the family experience. You'll get the number as long as people are happy with their experience through your admissions process.
Mine is similar to what Beth-Sarah was saying, that whenever I have to make a difficult decision, focus on what's best for the student, and then it'll be the right decision.
Mine is also along those lines. And so if I had to think about what's best for the student in 1 sentence, it would be something like, do no harm, leave people better than when they met you.
Yes. Love that.
I'll share that it's actually the same advice that I had in the sermon at my wedding, which was, be kind, be kind, be kind.
Thank you.
during the process, just ensure that you treat everyone like they matter. Everyone means something. So some great advice I've gotten.
Thank you. This is why you guys are the best at what you do. So thank you guys for getting deep with me at the end. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Guests, once again, thank you for just spending this time with us. And we look forward to seeing everybody for episode 6. But good luck to everybody in the admissions process. And thank you for tuning in.